What's up? Scuzzy Eye here. Today I want to show you something that I've mentioned on the Propellerhead user forum in bits and pieces, but never really collected all my thoughts in one place. It has to do with how Reason handles 32-bit audio when you're moving both in and out of the box, and how to preserve 32-bit audio in as many locations as possible. Now, 32-bit 32-bit floating point is superior to any other format that Reason does bring in, which is usually 24-bit. It has enormous headroom. Basically, you can't clip. So once you've gotten audio into Reason, you can do whatever you want with it, and you will never run into problems with clipping. So on the topic of clipping, I have a couple things set up here. I'll just run through the basic setup that I've created in this file to start with. I'll be adding some things as we go through. First off, because we'll be dealing with signals close to clipping, I've turned the master output down 6 dB. So in the rack, I have the big meter showing. It's not that important for this because, well, it's turned down 6 dB, so you won't actually see the clip indicators ever come on. I have the select gain in here. This is set to plus 8 dB right now. I have Thor generating a sine wave, no filter, amp envelope with a slow attack and slow release, and no loss on the sustain, full sustain. It's set to minus 0 dB on the master volume, and the amp gain is turned all the way up. Without this gain device here, it does generate just about a sine wave at peaks at like minus 8 dB full scale. So this is going to take it right up to just below clipping. And so over here in the sequencer, I have a middle C that's 1 bar long. I have a loop after it if I need it. I'm not going to bother even getting to the loop. But so I'm going to create an audio track. I want this to record. Oh, that was one thing I did have set. I have this Thor output set as a record source. So I can select it there to record into Thor. I record the Thor into the audio track. So we'll do that real quick. And I'll just chop off the end of this here. Now, if I zoom in here, you can see it is a sine wave that fades in. I did the fade in, fade out just so it doesn't pop or click, which would cause it to clip. That little extra harmonic that's created by the click, a high frequency harmonic, would actually have clipped the output. So I just did a slow fade in, but you can see that's just short of 0 dB full scale. Now if I go back to the rack here and turn this up another 4 dB, that'll put a 4 dB above full scale. So it'll be plus 12. And we'll create a second audio track here. Same thing, it needs to record the Thor. Make sure I'm at the beginning and record again. Let's zoom out so I can chop this. And go back to the beginning of the track and zoom in. And you can see that this one is indeed above 0 dB full scale in the floating point. If I were to normalize the clip, it does drop it down to 0 dB full scale, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to be working. I want an audio file that is above clipping, or on output would be clipping, just so I can see that the 32-bit information is being used. So the first thing we can see is what happens if I go and bounce this clipped disc. It'll be audio track 2, which is the one that has above 0 dB full scale. Since I'm working with video, I'm running at 48 kilohertz right now, and we're going to use a bit depth of 24. So that's the maximum output bit depth that Reason currently supports, is 24-bit. Export that. Create a new audio track and import into this the audio track that I just exported. And you can see, let me turn that off. You can see that it has the peaks have been clipped off there. So that's the problem with exporting at 24-bit when you have 32-bit in the box. Now, if I'd normalized before exporting, that would have solved the problem. You can also, if I'm just going to undo this track, it'll be gone. You can also use the bounce mixer channels. We'll go with audio track 2 is set there. All except fader, that'll keep it so the mono file is mono. If you use this normalized setting here, again, video 24-bit, it must do 2 passes or something. One runs through and probably holds the 32-bit values in memory or in a temp file or something before it goes back through and actually writes the 24-bit file, because if you have a real high peak somewhere later in the file, the whole file has to be reduced by the same amount to normalize it. So it has to know basically the highest peak in the output before it actually saves the WAV file to disk. So I'm not sure exactly how it does it, but it does do it correctly. So we'll do, and again, create an audio track, turn that off, and import the audio. Now this is from the bounced file. We'll open that one up, and you can see that it is nicely normalized at the maximum values are at 0 dB full scale. Now that is nice. You can normalize on export, but what if you really do want to preserve the 32-bit information that you have inside Reason? Now, before Reason 7.1, which is what I'm still using here, there was no way to bring 32-bit information into Reason. Once it was in Reason, you could add extra gain, or you could record an instrument, like I'd done there with the record source, and all that would be 32-bit. Now with Reason 7.1, they did add the ability to import 32-bit WAV files, so it is possible that you have received from another source and have been working with it in Reason, done something, edited, chopped it up, or whatever you've done, and you want to move the work you've done into another Reason document. Now, this is actually kind of neat. If you copy the audio, create a new document, and an audio track, you can actually paste that audio into it. And if we look here, let's zoom this up all the way and go to the beginning of the track, you can see it's not clipped. I can normalize that, and it preserved all the information that was above 0 dB full scale. Undo, and it's back to the above 0 dB full scale. So I'll just close this file without saving it. Go back to the beginning here. So I did export that one that was normalized, that we imported into track 3 here. I did mention that Reason can import 32-bit WAV files, so I'll show you how that actually works in the system here. Now I've started up Audacity. This is a open source audio editor. It's actually pretty powerful, the things you can do with it. This is the normalized audio track that I exported, and so it's peaks at 0 dB full scale. One thing Audacity does is it always works with 32-bit floating point, just like Reason does. So I can do things like apply the amplify effect, add 4 dB. That's about how much was lost whenever I normalized it, because I was using the gain device to push it 4 dB above full scale. Because the new peak amplitude of the waveform is above 0 dB full scale, I have to allow clipping in order to apply this amplify effect. Now again, it's using 32-bit floating points, so the same thing with Reason. The peaks of the waveforms have been pushed off the top. So I can now export this audio. I'm using other compressed files. It has a few other uncompressed files. There's a few compressed files and like the standard 16-bit wave. But if you pick this, go to options, you can actually get 32-bit floats in here. So I will say I want a wave header, but 32-bit float content. I will save this as -32, just so I know it's the 32-bit version. Save, no metadata, and it's been exported. So now if I go back to Reason, I can create an audio track, and I can get this 32-bit wave file, and you can actually see that it's being identified as 32-bit mono, 48 kilohertz, just like it's supposed to be. So I open that, and sure enough, the peaks are off the top, and if I normalize, you can see the information was there in the file. So you can import 32-bit waves into Reason. Just there's no way to get 32-bit waves out of Reason, including even 8 or 8.1 still does not support the exporting of 32-bit waves. So hopefully that's something that they will add in a future version, because it is nice that you can bring it in and you can move it between. If you create a new document, you can copy and paste the 32-bit audio between Reason. I believe also you can get 32-bit audio out through Rewire. So if you're rewiring into another program and you record the rewired audio, and that program does support saving 32-bit waves, that's one way you could possibly get 32-bit audio out of Reason, but that's a major workaround, and I just don't consider it to be worthwhile. Well, one other thing I'll show here is let's take this. I'll take the one that's above full scale and show you this. If I bounce to new samples, that'll create this sample here, and if I open up the sample, you can see it is, if I zoom in, if I zoom in, you can see it is clipped. The waveforms are the tops of them are missing, and if I hit normalized, it's already normalized. It's the information is gone. So if you you don't want to bounce to samples if you have you want to normalize before you bounce the samples rather than try to normalize afterwards, because it's the samples. Well, and that was my point, is the samples are actually 16-bit. They're not even 24-bit. I can give you an example here. I'll just cancel that. I will delete this sample that's not in use. Take this one here that is normalized, and bounce that to a new sample. And so you can see this one is correctly no information lost. The peaks are right at the edges. Now, if I bounce this normalized clip to disk, the one that will actually fit in 24-bit, and it's audio track 3, I will save that. 24-bit, okay. So now I have this self-contained sample, or the sample that I created here, and the one I've bounced to disk. So if I go back over to the rack, I can just hide this window. I create an NNXT, and we will browse for samples. So this one is the one that's actually works. If you see here, it says 24-bit. Now if I browse again for samples and go to song samples, and this one, you can see it's 16-bit. It's still the 48 kilohertz, which is what my project is, but the bounce clip to sample, using bounce clips to new samples, creates 16-bit samples. So if you really do want 24-bit samples, you're going to need to make sure it's normalized, bounce to disk, and then you can bring it into your sampler, which requires extra steps. It's kind of annoying, but that's really the only way you can get 24-bit samples in the sampler. I want to try one other thing. I just thought of this as I was looking at it. If I browse for samples and pull up this 32-bit one that I made here, what happens? Oh, what do you know? You can load 32-bit samples into into the Nin XT. That's another reason it would be great if Reason could export 32-bit audio, and or even better is if they fixed it so you could bounce clips to samples and have them be 32-bit instead of just even 24. It'd be great if you could actually bounce 32-bit, because that sample should be above 0 dB full scale. That's amazing. Well, I don't know if anyone else has even seen that before, so maybe that I actually discovered something in making this video. Well, anyway, thanks for tuning in. I'm Scuzzy Eye, and I'll catch you back here next time.